Have you ever had a moment where something felt just a little too perfect to be random? Not dramatic, not obvious, just precise. You think about someone and they call. You hesitate about a decision and suddenly something answers it. At first, it feels like coincidence, but then it happens again and again. And slowly, something unsettling begins to emerge. What if reality isn't just happening around you, but quietly responding to you? And here's the question most people never stop to ask. Is there a moment, a specific point, when this begins? There's a phase in human experience that almost no one talks about clearly. Not because it's rare, but because it's difficult to describe without sounding like you're imagining patterns that aren't really there. It doesn't begin with something dramatic. There's no single event where everything suddenly changes. Instead, it starts quietly. So quietly that most people miss it entirely. It begins as a subtle shift in how things unfold around you. At first, it looks like coincidence. A thought crosses your mind, and shortly after, something in your environment reflects it. You remember someone you haven't spoken to in years, and somehow they reach out. You consider an idea, and suddenly you encounter it again somewhere unexpected. Individually, these moments don't seem important. They're easy to ignore, easy to rationalize. After all, coincidences happen all the time. But what makes this phase different is repetition. Not just repetition, but a kind of pattern. A pattern that feels too consistent to dismiss, yet too subtle to prove. And over time, that pattern begins to feel intentional. Not controlled, not predictable, but responsive. As if reality itself is reacting. And this is where something inside you shifts, because at some point you stop asking, why is this happening? And you start asking a much stranger question. Why does it feel like something is responding to me? Do you understand this? We need to step away from the surface of the experience, because what you're noticing is not necessarily a change in reality, it's a change in your relationship to it. Most of the time, you move through life on autopilot. Your attention is scattered, your thoughts are reactive, your actions are habitual. You respond to what happens without really noticing how you are responding. And because of that, reality feels external. Something that exists independently of you. Something that happens to you. But every now and then, something interrupts that pattern. You become more aware. Not in a dramatic, life-changing way, just slightly more present, slightly more attentive. You notice things you normally wouldn't. Small details, subtle patterns, connections between events. And when that happens, something very interesting begins to unfold. Your attention becomes more focused. Your decisions become more deliberate. Your actions become more aligned with what you're actually thinking. And because of that, your environment begins to respond differently. Not because reality itself has changed, but because your interaction with it has. And this is where the illusion or the experience of responsiveness begins. Because now your internal state and your external experience are more closely linked. Your thoughts influence your actions more directly. Your actions influence your outcomes more clearly. And those outcomes begin to reflect your internal state. This creates a loop, a feedback loop. And that loop is powerful. Because once it starts, it reinforces itself. You notice a pattern. That pattern influences your expectations. Your expectations influence your behavior. Your behavior influences your results, and your results confirm the pattern. And slowly, what began as coincidence starts to feel like communication. But there's another layer to this, because perception alone doesn't fully explain the feeling. There are moments, rare but real, where the timing is too precise, too aligned, too unlikely. Moments where something happens at exactly the right time. Not just convenient timing, not just probability, but timing that feels almost designed. And those moments leave a mark. They stay with you, not because you can explain them, but because you can't. And over time, as these moments accumulate, something deeper begins to happen. You start to feel like you are not just observing reality, but interacting with it in a more direct way. And this is the strange moment. Not a single point in time, but a phase, a transition, where your experience of reality shifts from passive to interactive. But here's the part most people misunderstand. This is not about control. It's not about bending reality to your will. It's not about manifesting outcomes through thought alone. What's happening is more subtle than that. You are becoming more aware of the system you are already part of, a system where your attention, your decisions, and your environment are constantly influencing each other. And when you become aware of that system, it starts to feel like it's responding, because you're no longer disconnected from it. You are engaged, fully. And engagement changes everything, because when you are fully engaged, your perception sharpens, your reactions slow down, your choices become more deliberate, and that creates a different kind of interaction with reality, one that feels alive, responsive, dynamic. But there's also a danger in this phase, a subtle one, because it's easy to misinterpret what's happening, to assume that you are controlling everything, that your thoughts alone are shaping reality, that the world is responding directly to your mind. That belief can feel empowering at first, but it can also lead to confusion, because reality does not respond perfectly. It does not follow your expectations exactly, and when things don't go the way you think they should, it creates tension, frustration, doubt. That's why it's important to understand what's actually happening. This is not about control, it's about alignment. When your thoughts, your attention, and your actions are aligned, your interaction with reality becomes more efficient, more precise, more impactful. And that creates the feeling of responsiveness, because your actions are now producing clearer results, and those results feel connected to you. But alignment is not constant. It shifts, it changes, and so does the feeling of responsiveness. Some days everything flows, things fall into place, timing feels perfect, and other days it doesn't. And that contrast can be confusing, because it makes you question the experience. Was it real? Was it just coincidence? Was it all in your head? But the truth is, it's neither entirely real nor entirely imagined. It's a reflection of how you're interacting with reality in that moment, and that interaction is always changing. Now here's where things become truly interesting, because once you become aware of this phase, you can't go back to experiencing reality the same way. You start to notice patterns more easily. You become more sensitive to timing. You begin to see connections where you didn't see them before. And that changes how you move through the world. You become more intentional, more observant, more involved. And that involvement deepens the loop. The more you engage, the more you notice. The more you notice, the more aligned you become. The more aligned you become, the more your environment reflects that alignment. And the cycle continues. But the most important shift is not external, it's internal. Because you stop seeing yourself as separate from what's happening. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, how am I part of this? And that question changes everything, because it shifts your perspective from passive to active, from observer to participant. And once that shift happens, the idea that reality is responding to you no longer feels strange, it feels natural. Because you understand that you are not outside the system, you are inside it, part of it, influencing it and being influenced by it at the same time. And maybe that's what this phase really is. Not a moment where reality suddenly changes, but a moment where you realize you were never separate from it in the first place. And once you see that, you begin to move differently, think differently, act differently. Not because you're trying to control reality, but because you understand your role within it. And that understanding creates something powerful. Not control, not certainty, but awareness. And awareness changes everything. Because the moment you become aware of how you interact with reality is the moment reality begins to feel like it's responding. Not because it just started, but because you finally noticed it. And once you notice it, you can't unsee it. And once you can't unsee it, the world becomes something entirely different. Not random, not fixed, but interactive. And that's the strange moment no one talks about. Not because it doesn't exist, but because once you experience it, it's almost impossible to explain. And yet, you know exactly what it feels like.